Today's guest is actually one of the most influential and leading voices. He is someone who has been advocating for free speech, open discussions, and democracy for so many years.
I know it's really hard for people with deeply held political beliefs and passions to hear from the other side. But I think that ultimately, it's an act of courage to listen. And it's an act of optimism to listen.
I think a lot of people that tend to be that way are a lot more prideful too. They let their pride get in the way of asking the right questions.
Take winning off the table. Rather than try to win someone over to your side, just try to build a bridge. And the bridge isn't to pull them over to your side. The bridge is so that you can meet in the middle. We live in a moment of just pure outrage, right? Where everything is an opportunity for outrage, and that outrage needs to be shared. And our identities are defined by the outrage that we are expressing. This epidemic of loneliness, though, is terrifying.
He's obviously one of the most controversial political figures.
Yeah, it was a bloodbath. Nobody would say yes to our invitations anymore. We can't live with this anger forever. We can't live in this state of outrage forever.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Brew. I'm your host Nora, and I'm here with my co-host
Katerina.
Today's guest is actually one of the most influential and leading voices when it comes to public media in Cleveland. He is someone who has been advocating for free speech, open discussions, and democracy for so many years. He's moderated thousands of conversations, and I'm really excited to have him here today with us. Dan Moulthrop, welcome to Unfiltered Brew.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to Unfiltered Brew, Dan.
Thanks, ladies. It's great to be here.
We're
really
finally
glad to be here.
Having you in the studio is just really exciting. You talk so much about the openness of having discussions with your peers, your colleagues, family members, and I want to understand, now that you've moderated so many conversations over the years among activists and leaders and CEOs, public figures, political leaders, why are people so difficult to communicate with?
Okay.
What did you learn about
Tell us,
communicating?
Dan.
Okay. How much time do we have?
We want to know it all.
Okay.
Let's get deep.
All right. Well, let me just say first, thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
Thank you
yeah.
for doing this podcast. I think it's important that we have these kinds of opportunities, and you two are just like kick-ass women leading in this
You're
space.
so
I appreciate
sweet.
it.
Thank
I
you,
really
Dan.
appreciate the opportunity
We
to be here
learn
with
from the
you.
best.
We
The
do.
best of the
Yes,
best.
yes.
And a shout out to our engineer Larry. He's doing a great
Larry,
job as
we
well.
love
Thank you,
Larry.
sir. There's so many factors that are making it challenging for all of us to get along, to listen to one another across difference. I actually have basically like a TED talk about this, but I'll try to summarize. I think we have serious threats to democracy that are coming from that are not unique to the United States. It's what's happening in the United States is an iteration of something that's happening around the globe right now.
Yeah.
We have threats to freedom of speech that are real substantial First Amendment threats coming from the government. And this isn't a partisan statement. I think it was also true in the previous administration. There were different threats then, but they were serious First Amendment threats.
Yeah.
But our nation has long had a culture of celebrating freedom of speech, which is different from the First Amendment. Celebrating free speech and appreciating free speech is really a different thing than the specifics of the First Amendment and the censorship that happens when the government violates the First Amendment. But I think that culture of free speech is really being threatened by the hyper-partisan nature of our politics, the politics of purity and the politics of grievance and the politics of demonization that characterize so much of what happens today. And increasingly, we see that the generation of young people who are coming into adulthood, so college students today and high school students today, but I'm going to cite some statistics about college students today. An organization called the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, was also referred to as FIRE, surveys college students every year. They do an annual ranking sort of the state of free speech on college campuses and to figure out which college campuses are doing well and which need help. They survey about 14,000 students from around the country. And last year, 72% of college students surveyed across the country said that it's okay to shout down a speaker you disagree with, at least in rare cases.
It's okay.
It's okay to shout down. So like almost 3/4, right, of students say it's okay to shout down a speaker if you really disagree with them. Yeah.
Interesting.
And a third of students surveyed say that it's okay to use violence to stop a speaker from speaking.
Wow.
So so the school's allowing.
It's just what the students are saying in response. Like, is it ever okay to use violence to stop somebody to stop an event from happening where there's a speaker you disagree with? And 1/3 of students say, yeah, in rare cases, it would be okay to use violence.
And why do you think that?
I don't know.
Do you think it's the way they're being educated in schools?
I don't think, I think that it's part of a trend. I don't know exactly what causes this trend. I think there's a lot of factors at play. But we have, as a culture, have kind of lost that sense of free speech being something that is worth celebrating and our disagreements being something that is worth tolerating so that we can live in a free society.
Which can spark more discussions and maybe spark your curiosity based on the topic that you're disagreeing with.
Yeah.
But I feel like with this generation, specifically like the younger generation now that we're seeing, and like with the access to digital media and social media and being online, everyone is so quick to react and no one's taking the time to think before they react.
Our phones are a huge part of the problem too.
I agree.
So
lack of focus, constant scrolling, and
people are getting worse at listening.
We're getting worse at listening, and we are really good at letting everybody know what we think and assuming that what we think is worth everybody's time. Like not just the time of the person we're having a conversation with. You remember when you used to just have conversations with people and not post about everything?
Yeah,
you
but
would
now everything has to get posted online.
Everything
Every
has
little
to get
moment
posted.
you talk about, you go to the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A and you have a little disagreement with the person at the cash register. You're gonna go online and talk about it.
You'll not believe what just happened to me at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
It's insane, and we live in a moment of just pure outrage, right? Where everything is an opportunity for outrage, and that outrage needs to be shared, and our identities are defined by the outrage that we are expressing.
Yeah.
It used to be 20 years ago.
You used to be able to sit down with your neighbor and have a conversation over a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But
right.
And I don't think neighbors don't even speak.
Neighbors don't even speak. I feel I've experienced.
Well, I speak with my
myself.
neighbors. I have a great neighborhood, and I love my neighbors. And we had this progressive dinner party that started at one house and moved to other houses over a few weeks ago. And we have block parties, and it's a great neighborhood. However, I think you're right. So Vivek Murthy, the former Surgeon General in the Biden administration, he put out this huge report about the loneliness epidemic. And I think this is also connected, right? To the phones and so we find, but there is this epidemic of loneliness. People are spending less time with one another, less time having the conversations that are not high stakes conversations. They could be incredibly low stakes conversations about political disagreement, but it's okay because we both belong to the same community or the same church or whatever, and we can disagree because the disagreement doesn't define us. The community should define us. Our love for one another should define us. And so this epidemic of loneliness, though, is terrifying. I wish I'd brought the statistics with me, but I'll try to remember some of it. Young people used to report spending over 150 minutes every day with their friends. Just unstructured time hanging out. High school students, 16 years old, whatever. And when Vivek Murthy put this study out, he noted that number had dropped to something below 60 minutes.
I believe it though.
Kids, young people are not spending as much time generally with their friends just hanging out.
I mean, have you ever been...
They're not even doing anything. Yeah. I mean, they're literally sitting there, I feel like half the time on their phones in their room playing video games for hours straight.
Yeah, well, and this isn't all, obviously this isn't all young people, and these are averages.
But a lot of
but
percentage of them.
But these trends are really alarming. And what happens, I think, if you spend a lot of time alone, if you don't have those social interaction that we all need as human beings, we need to love and be loved by our friends and our partners and our families.
Yeah.
If you're not getting that somewhere, you're going to try to find it anywhere. And so then you find it online, you find what passes for a community but isn't really a community online, by sharing your outrage and getting a bunch of likes and dopamine hits for that.
Right.
And
on Reddit.
on Reddit or wherever else. And you get, and those upvotes, those thumbs ups are sort of substituting for real human interaction. Yeah. And the way that you get them is by being more outraged
and
than you were last time and reactive. Yeah.
And I feel like also the opportunities of people going online and expressing outrage has increased because there's no repercussions. There's no real repercussions online. Maybe you'll get some comments here and there, some dislikes, but real repercussions like in person are very rare unless you know the person and you go up and knock on their door. Yeah, right?
Sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've had personally like a few instances where online interactions have become IRL, opportunities. And sometimes those have been great. I have friends, like back in the day when Twitter was fun and new, I have a couple of friends who I made from Twitter right? And I see them around town. There was like a Cleveland Twitterverse that was really fun and interesting. And I met people, and then we would meet up in we've become friends in real life. But then other times, sometimes like people, I'm a pretty public person, and sometimes like I've had
Tell us, like
somebody,
what are some of the most like disruptive
people,
things that people have said about you online? We want to know.
We want to know the tea.
Because we've experienced it ourselves, but as a public figure like yourself who promotes freedom of speech, what type of outrage have you experienced online?
Well, there's a lot of people who are very mad at me because last week we provided a platform to the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy.
Yeah, I've seen the protest. I walked right past them.
Yeah, there were about 200 people protesting. There were about 200 people, 230 people inside. And all of it is democracy. That's what democracy looks like, right? You have protests, you have freedom of speech. We're very, as an organization, I think we are very, we feel very good about the fact that we provided this opportunity for our community to speak directly to the Secretary of Health and Human Services about policies that they don't like. That's a First Amendment thing. That's a right to
raise the hand, raise the question.
Yeah, to bring your grievance up. And we had 200 people on the sidewalk in front of the event protesting the speaker.
Yeah, I heard him, and I walked right past them.
Yeah, and letting their voices be heard, and that's important too. But a lot of people think that we shouldn't have provided the platform at all to the Secretary of Health and Human Services. We've had a few controversial people over the last year.
Yeah.
The reason they've been controversial is because their voices from the right in a place, Cuyahoga County, that is mostly on the left.
Blue, yeah.
I don't really like the blue-red stuff.
Yeah.
But, so I'm going to say left and right, if that's okay. But,
I don't even know how to I guess label it anymore. I hate labeling things too, to be honest, because people are so politically polarized these days.
Yeah. Well, and also Obama.
I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, I don't. The blue-red stuff for a sec. I'll just go down that rabbit hole for a sec. When we say like Ohio is a red state, it sort of erases all the people on the left who are still voting, and actually. The majority of Ohioans may have voted for the Republicans in whichever race we want to talk about, but that also means that 47% of Ohioans, or whatever the number is, slightly less than 50%, voted the other way, right? So we're not. You can't say the whole state is red. It just happens to be controlled by Republicans at this moment in time, and it hasn't always been that way, and it won't always be that way. It's just the way it happens to be right now, and I feel like the red state, blue state, red city, blue city stuff just erases the experiences of voters who really matter a lot. and even a congressional district, right? We happen to be in Chantel Brown's congressional district right now, but there are Republicans who live in this district, just as there are Democrats who live in Dave Joyce's district and elsewhere. So I just think, like, I like to try to remind myself to be as aware as I can of the complexity of human experience and the diversity of human experience, whether that diversity is political, racial, ethnic, or cultural, cultural.
But like going back to like RFK Jr.
Yes, going back to RFK Jr. for a second.
Is obviously one of the most controversial political figures.
Yeah. Although there's really nobody in this administration who you wouldn't say that about.
Say is a controversial, right?
But for sure, he's the most controversial Health and Human Services Secretary in our lifetimes.
What was your reaction to the people being really upset as you providing him a platform to speak in Cleveland?
It's interesting. As I was saying before, we've had a number of controversial speakers, mostly these voices from the right, who whose presence in the community really seems to provoke people on the left and make them feel a whole range of emotions, from fear to experiencing to experiencing harm in to their identities and to their selves, and they fear for their safety sometimes because of some of these policies. And I think that's valid. Given the acts of this administration, particularly with regard to, what they were doing in Minneapolis with ICE.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason people fear for their safety in these moments. There's a lot of political violence as well, and so there's a reason why everybody fears for their safety. But in January, we hosted a very influential leader of a very influential organization in Columbus, Aaron Baer of the Center for Christian Virtue. And at the time, a lot of the pushback that we received was, this guy's not an elected official, you have no reason to bring him on, but he's very influential in Columbus. There's legislation, Senate Bill 1 that changed the face of public higher education in the state of Ohio, was deeply influenced in a number of areas by the Center for Christian Virtue and Aaron Baer. And there are legislators who are regularly calling him and asking for his advice, and how should I vote on X, Y, and Z. Guy's got a ton of influence. So that's why that's primarily the reason that we had him. We wanted to understand that influence, where it comes from, what his agenda is, what the center's agenda is, what the impact that it's having. But I was told at the time, well, he's not an elected official. He's not, like, if it was somebody in the administration, that would be justified. So then when we have somebody from the administration, I get the same kind of pushback, right?
Outrage,
from a lot of the same people who are upset because of something that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said.
Yeah.
And I understand that people are upset, and I appreciate that they're upset.
Yeah.
Which is why we do like 100 programs every year, because we're never going to be able to perfectly encapsulate. There's no perfect program.
No.
And so we'll have in a few weeks Dr. Peter Salk, whose father invented the polio vaccine. So
wow.
he'll be talking about the importance of vaccines and vaccinations, and he will be interviewed on stage by Dr. Arthur Lavin, who started an organization called Grandparents for Vaccines.
So
Interestingly,
you're catering to.
we're doing all of it.
Yeah.
We're doing as much as we can. A lot of people were upset with us because the moderator who interviewed the secretary wasn't hard enough, didn't push back enough, and all of that. And none of those people.
You can control that, though, right? Can you?
I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to that in a second. Nobody has complained that the interviewer selected to interview Peter Salk is not going to be presenting an anti-vaccine point of view, or going to be asking about thimerosal or mercury, or whether there is actually a link to autism that we just haven't discovered yet.
Right.
Like, I don't expect that to come up in the conversation, and nobody is asking for that. And so, the thing about what we do at the City Club, I want to get to your moderator question. There are different kinds of events, right? Yeah. There are debates when you know that it's going to be head-to-head, sharp elbows,
Yeah.
tough questions. There are, interrogatory kinds of interviews where people are like, go ahead, do your worst, right? And then there are other moments where, like fireside chats, coffee table conversations, this kind of thing, where the goal, you guys don't have a goal of like, I don't think. I mean, we could find out in about 10 minutes. You're like, now, we really want to skewer you. But there are other kinds of interviews where you're just trying to understand.
Yeah.
You might ask a couple of tough questions here and there, and like, really, like, do you really think that? Let me ask it this other way, or let me push back a little bit. But you're not like going for the jugular.
Yeah.
And
that's what people were upset with RFK Jr. They wanted to
but
come into the jugular.
If every time we presented a moderated conversation at the City Club, it was a bloodbath, nobody would say yes to our invitations anymore, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
True. That's very true.
And so,
it's like, why would I put myself in that situation?
Right.
Yeah.
But what we had was, in the second part of the conversation, I wouldn't say second half because the moderator did go on a bit long. And which means when we only have an hour, there's going to be less time for audience questions. But we got to a number of questions. And the audience questions were really good. They were fair, they were well informed, and they really sought to effectively hold the secretary accountable for things that he's doing, changes that he is making that are bringing some harm to some of our communities. And people asked great questions. And his staff said those were fair questions. And I think that's what we do. And could we have
the conversation?
Could the moderator have done a better job? Always. The answer to that question, regardless of who's doing the moderation, is like always. And but it is I've done it a lot, and it's a really hard job.
Right. And like, how do you prep? Do you even prep a moderator if it's not yourself?
Yeah, we try to. Okay. We do our best, but ultimately, once a program gets started, there's not a lot I can do.
You could do, right?
But we have prep calls.
I mean, there's only so much you can do when it comes to prepping.
Yeah.
And then it just, you could prep, but then it could totally go
It goes a different direction.
Right.
The conversation could go all sorts of ways. And in a live event that is time limited, you have what you have.
Yeah.
Right? This podcast, I mean, I think are we live streaming right now?
No.
Okay, we're not live
No.
streaming. So, but if we were, then it's a live event. But if it's not, so you guys might go back and edit this. You might be like, I didn't really like Dan's.
It's unfiltered.
It is unfiltered.
We try not to.
Yeah, but it doesn't say unedited.
We like it to be unfiltered.
Yeah.
So.
But you might, and sometimes you
Hey,
can.
we're up for a
that.
live event if you are.
Okay. You might do that someday.
I mean, we live, like we were just talking about all this, but we live in a world where politics become very deep and emotional right now. Like,
yes.
Why do you think the political identity becomes so personal?
Well, I think it comes back to a lot of stuff we were talking about before about people wanting an identity. Everybody needs to feel like they fit in or like they belong to something bigger than themselves. And if they're not finding that in their community, in the people around them, in their work, this is politics is something that gives you a lot of meaning. And I think that's great because ultimately politics is what we do to make our nation work better, to make our communities work better. And politics in its ideal form is a whole series of compromises and negotiations, and it's what we do so we don't go to war with one another, so we don't commit acts of violence against one another. When politics fails, you get a civil war.
You get a civil war, a rise in violence, corruption, which we've all witnessed at some point in our life, right?
Yeah.
And I just feel like as someone like who have experienced war, like myself, and Kat has experienced war, and like we moved here and we felt like we had a loss of identity actually.
Really?
Here. Yeah, because we didn't understand where we should fit in the beginning when I first moved here.
When did you move here? And remind me where you both moved here from.
I moved from Kuwait back in 2011. I'm ethnically Syrian though, so my dad's from Syria, and you've seen what's going on with Syria in the last few years. She came from
last
war.
few years. It's been over a decade.
Basically 14 years of like civil war.
Yeah, and it wasn't great before that.
And exactly that's why my dad left. Like my dad left Syria back in the early 80s, migrated to Kuwait for a better job, for a better life, for financial security. My family went through the wars in the early 90s, the Gulf War with Iraq, and then once again in 2003, and then the third time recently. So I feel like even when I moved here back in 2011, I felt like, even though I had a green card, eventually I am a U.S. citizen now. ICE don't come for me. But I didn't really understand where people were so polarizing here. For example, when I went to college, in some cases, I found myself in conversations with students who would first wanted to understand like what my religious view was, and then that would turn into a political conversation. And I am someone who didn't feel like I had such a strong perspective until like I was surrounded myself with all these like little minority groups, and I felt like, okay, now I gotta like fit in somewhere, and forced myself to have this single-minded opinion, unfortunately, for a long time. And which really affected my mental health. I would feel judged or misjudged by someone I meet, or by my community, my Middle Eastern community. And then also online, I'm not like such a big public figure, but I do have an online platform. We started this podcast, and we've both experienced some sort of I don't want to say repercussions because that's like a strong word, but like hate, I would say. Like social media hate.
Hate is a less strong word than repercussions.
Yeah, right. Hate. Nobody can hold me accountable for something I say online, but I've always expressed myself with the utmost respect, I would feel like, online. I have a platform, and I've experienced people coming at me for certain views, or because I attended a show, and the show, for example, like a person of that who was hosting the show was from a different religious belief or a cultural belief, and man, those people online can really come at you.
They do.
They do. I had a mental breakdown.
Did you guys listen? Are you guys Taylor Swift fans?
Yeah, we're Taylor Swift fans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course,
did you listen to her interview when she was on the New Heights podcast?
Yeah, when she released her album.
Do you remember what she said about your attention and other people and the haters? She said I love this. It's tattooed in my brain. She said your attention is a luxury good that other people can't afford.
Yeah, and she's like, protect it at all costs.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
correct. She did say that.
Yeah. I like kind of shut down most of my like social media activity. I still have like the accounts, so if people send me stuff, I can see it. But I try to really limit the amount of time I spend opening myself up to all of that. Yeah. I get a lot of email too. I get phone calls. People talk to me at the at Heinen's and wherever else.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to share their point of view on our programming and also kind of the ideas that they have for other programming. But you have to be careful in this work of putting yourself out there on a public platform. You have to be really careful about how you care for yourself. Yeah,
that's very true. No, and I think we both learned that too the hard way. Really, it's just like we have our platform. We go on there to share more about a podcast more than anything else. Really, it's mainly about the podcast. But every now here and then, we are trying to build a community here and try to keep an a sense of openness to our
where people can see us.
Yeah, and relate to us.
Yeah.
But I always remind my followers, what you guys see online is literally 2% of my day. You guys don't see the other 98%. I choose what to show you.
Yeah.
And it's mostly the highs and the highlights of my day, whether I'm, here at the studio, which is most of the time, or if I'm on a trip, I take a picture of someone. But the very rare occasion where I'll post myself attending a show and then a group of people just came for me.
What was the show?
Just say it, who cares?
What?
Seinfeld. So I attended
Jerry Seinfeld.
I attended Jerry Seinfeld in February last February at Playhouse Square, and being a Middle Eastern, you can understand the controversy that caused online for attending his show. And so I was dealing with lots of negativity online with a group of people. I actually had to get a lawyer involved.
I'm really sorry that happened.
Yeah, I just watched a little clip online on Instagram the other day, and she said, "You know what, you guys? This video is great because she's like, you haters, you know what you just bought me?" And she got this purse. It was what kind of purse was it? Like a Louis Vuitton or whatever she always wanted, or Chanel. I don't remember exactly, but she's like, you guys bought me this purse, so keep on hating and keep on.
Oh right, yeah.
But speaking of That's so true. But like, people are always trying to cancel you online, right? But
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like cancel culture has changed public conversation?
Oh, 100% it has. Sure. Yeah. People are terrified to
Terrified to say anything.
Yeah. And they're very, very careful. Particularly people who have a public facing persona that is that is part of their where they're rising to the level of influencer or something like that.
But doesn't that kind of go back to like living in a country where we have freedom of speech? So like, shouldn't I be able to say anything I want on this platform? And like, why do I have to get canceled? Like, why?
Free speech isn't like freedom from consequences, right? Like we all are responsible to for the things that we say, the beliefs that we make public. We're responsible for all of that stuff. And if we say something that harms other people or truly is offensive or is bigoted or whatever, I mean, there are going to be repercussions. I mean, you guys are choosing to do this podcast, right? So you have all of these responsibilities that come with it to curate and nurture and steward a civil platform, a place where people can have dialogue, but I mean, there's plenty in like the manosphere, the bro culture stuff where like people are just like, I'm going to say whatever I want. I don't think that's particularly helpful, because most of the time, whether it's like Hassan Piker or whoever, or Joe Rogan or any of these folks, I didn't really mean to name people specifically, but it happened. But I don't think these are thoughtfully considered points of view they're sharing. Yeah. I think they're just saying stuff. To spark dialogue, to spark viewership, and to get the clip that goes viral. And I don't know that that's particularly helpful, but we do. I mean, if we've chosen professions or activities that put us in the public eye, there's a certain responsibility that comes with that. I mean, we could choose to do different things, right? Yeah. I could, I could still be a high school teacher, right? Yeah. And just be doing that. But I chose these sort of different avenues that have put me in these, in a very public light. So there's responsibilities that come with that. You went
from being a high school teacher to now being a moderator and a speaker.
It was not a straight line.
Yeah, tell us what that journey was like. Yeah.
His favorite question, what does that feel like for you?
It feels weird. It feels really weird, Kat, because, when I was, so this 2026, in 2003, I was still teaching high school, and this time of year would have been in 2003. So 23 years ago, I was ending my career as my short-lived career, 4 or 5 years of teaching high school, and a year before, I also taught for a year in a county jail in San Francisco.
Oh wow!
And at the time, like, I never thought. I had no vision of what I would do, what the rest of my career would look like.
Are you from Cleveland?
No. I grew up in New Jersey. I was born in New York City. I grew up in Jersey, and I'm in Cleveland because I fell in love with a Clevelander when I was teaching high school.
I'm loving all these guests coming into Cleveland from different states.
Yeah, I was. My
Cleveland
wife
must be the love city or something.
It is. So many of us have followed our loves to Cleveland. My wife Dorothy Russo Moulthrop. She grew up here in Shaker Heights. She went to Beaumont, and she was a high school English teacher. We taught together at San Lorenzo High School in California, in the Bay Area, just south of Oakland. And that's where we met. And after I left teaching, was when we fell in love and all of that. But she brought me here, and happily, like I was very happy to come back to the Midwest. But at the time, I didn't think like, oh, I'm going to lead an organization one day or something like that. I mean, I thought when I was teaching, I had made a deal with myself in 2002. I said, I said to myself, I think I want to be a journalist. I'm going to see if I can get into grad school for journalism, because I was like into my 20s. I didn't really want to go intern somewhere. I thought like, I'll do grad school. That's an easier way to make the to make a horizontal move in my career, because I didn't want to just go down, right?
Yeah.
Back to interning and making zero money. So I just, went to grad school and made zero money. But it was fun. And but I made this deal. If I only applied to one school, the UC Berkeley J School, and I said to myself, if I don't get in, that means I should just keep teaching, and I'll just keep doing that. Maybe I'll be a principal one day or something. But I got in, and I was like, okay, that was the deal. I'm gonna go to J School. It was really fun. And then coming here, I worked for IdeaStream for 5 years or so, from 2005 to 2010. You had your own show,
I believe, correct?
I had the great opportunity to host a call-in show that Stephanie Haney now hosts, the Sound of Ideas. I hosted it, and then Rick Jackson hosted, and then Mike McIntyre hosted, and now Stephanie Haney hosts. And and Jenny Hamill was host as well. There's been a lot of us. We should get together sometime.
Yeah. And it's right next door to City Club.
It is. It's like 2 doors down.
Coincidence?
Sort of. Not really.
Okay.
Like Craig Hassel, who I know has been a guest on this show.
Shout out to Craig.
Yeah. Craig Hassel would say, of course it's not a coincidence. Playhouse Square is at the center of everything, and all good things flow to Playhouse Square. And it really is the heart of the performing arts and civic dialogue and media as well. I moved to Cleveland in 2005, and that was the year that IdeaStream moved to Playhouse Square.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So when I first got to IdeaStream, we were broadcasting out of Cleveland State University, that building on Chester Avenue, where Campus International High School is co-located right now, but won't be
Go
next
Vikings.
year.
I went to Cleveland State.
Go Vikes. And then Larry, did you go to Cleveland State as well? That's what I'm talking about.
I didn't know
that.
Wow,
look at you, little.
Love that. Anyway, and then we moved into that building at Playhouse Square at the end of 2005. And I loved working there. Yeah. I loved working there. It was really fun.
But it's a great place to connect with people too. It's literally the center of.
Yeah. I mean, so IdeaStream moves to Playhouse Square because they understand that there's so much going on right there, and there's so much potential. And they co-own that building with Playhouse Square. And it's a beautiful partnership. City Club has long had a partnership with IdeaStream as well. So it just works out really well. And for our partnership with IdeaStream, because I worked there and a bunch of the people I worked with still work there as well, like it's very easy to work on stuff collaboratively. So how did you transition
from IdeaStream to the City Club?
In 2010, I had an opportunity to work on this on a project called Civic Commons, which was funded by the Knight Foundation. And the idea was to create a social media environment specifically designed for civic dialogue. At the time, Facebook and Twitter, what
year was this?
2010.
So just at
the very beginning of social media. And those platforms, it was like before Instagram, right? Those platforms were being used just to share pictures of your cat, or not even, we hadn't even moved to pictures of your food.
Meal, right?
We hadn't yet gotten to the food, because the food was really an Instagram thing. I think it was influenced by Instagram. Yeah. And but people were sharing pictures of their cats and their grandkids, and that was it. And Twitter was like, what do we do with this? It was like people were just talking. What are we doing on Twitter? So we were trying to create a social media environment for civic dialogue, and it was fun. We had a great time. You had you would, when you created an account, you would sign off on the values of the website, which were transparency, optimism, being productive, that kind of thing. And then when you rather than upvotes or thumbs up, thumbs down on comments, you could rate them as interesting, informative, things like that.
Oh, okay.
It was really we were trying out a lot of different things.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good experiment.
How were you able to start discussions without allowing your political view or cultural view affect the dialogue?
Since the days that I started teaching, I have been kind of deprioritizing my own political point of view on issues in the interest of engaging others. I do have a lot of points of view. I have more questions, though, than I have points of view. And I'm very unsure frequently of my own point of view.
Yeah.
and
which is fair. I mean, I think a lot of people fail to like be honest about it, and I love that you said that right now, because so many people feel pressured to feel, like I said myself, and I'm sure maybe you've experienced that, to feel like we have to be polarizing and we have to say either we're this or that. Like we couldn't just say, you know what,
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Still exploring. So
I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much I don't know, right? There's so much I'm unsure about.
Yeah.
And I'm very suspicious and skeptical of people who are so certain of the rightness of their point of view, because I tend to believe that there's probably something they haven't taken into account.
For sure.
And I think a lot of people that tend to be that way are a lot more prideful too. You know, they let their pride get in the way of asking the right questions and like being vulnerable while asking these questions.
I mean, yeah, I think you're probably
right.
I mean, you're probably right, Kat. But
I could be wrong. I don't know.
I tend to think that. I mean, I tend to believe that everybody's just trying to do their best. You know, people are really just trying to do their best, and they're trying to do what they think is right. And they really, even when they're coming at you for going to see Jerry Seinfeld, they believe that they're doing what's right.
Right thing, yeah.
You know,
even though it's
like,
not sometimes.
They believe that Jerry Seinfeld's point of view on Israel and Gaza is the wrong point of view and is doing harm, and they're acting in what they believe are the best interests of the world, of humanity. It's a scary thing right now. It's the way it gets to like family members and other things, and really threatens your like your life, your safety,
Yeah,
and
your livelihood.
I got online threats about someone wanting to show up to the studio, the Pilates studio I go to. I'm like, this is getting serious now. We're gonna have to get a lawyer involved, and if that doesn't work, we're gonna have to get like the law enforcement involved, because that's not okay.
And at the end of the day, you know, it's all about how she said, it was all about how it was handled. You just added fuel to the fire instead of just handling it correctly, you know. And that's really another problem with a lot of people today is it's not really the problem. It's how you handle the problem, how you like approach the problem. How do you talk about it or asking questions?
It's just like society has just lost the ability to hear others that have different viewpoints.
And understand each other.
This is something that's come up a lot in my, you know, when I talk to different groups, people are always asking, like one of the questions that almost always comes up is, how do I have a conversation with this family member of mine who is, you know, who I really on the other side of every issue, right? You know, so somebody who voted for Trump, who can't understand why anybody would support Biden. Like, how do I have that conversation, or the other way around?
Yeah.
And so there's a few kind of tips or like ideas that I'm exploring about how you actually do that. How do you have that conversation across deep political difference? And so here's the advice nobody asked for, but I'm going to give you anyway.
No, we want to hear it. We want to hear it.
We want to know.
So I think number one, it's really important if you're going to have a conversation with a specific person who you know you disagree with. Number one, you start by inviting that person to a conversation. Don't spring it on them at Heinen's or at Thanksgiving or whatever, right? In the middle of some other event that they came to with some other purpose in mind, right? But invite them to say like, hey, I think you and I have some deep disagreements about some political issues, and I would love to understand better how you came to your point of view. Could we meet for coffee sometime? Which is a totally different approach than like you're at Thanksgiving and be like, how can you think that about blah, blah, blah? Right? So
you're trying to understand and not attack.
Right. So you invite them to it so that when that hour arrives, when the date arrives, like you both know what you're signing up for, right? And then, and this I learned from my friend Eric Liu, who runs an organization called Citizen University based out of Seattle, that when you're having that argument or that conversation, take winning off the table. There is no winning the argument.
Yeah.
Winning the argument doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's such a great point.
That really is.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
It literally does not matter.
Yeah.
Take your
pride.
Take your ego out of it. Just, it doesn't matter.
I mean, they say that with married couples too. You know, don't try to win the conversation.
There's no winning.
There's no
I feel like a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, we do because we want to be right.
If you want to try, you still struggle with it.
Yeah, take winning off the table, and rather than rather than try to win someone over to your side, just try to build a bridge. And the bridge isn't to pull them over to your side. The bridge is so that you can meet in the middle. And you can build that bridge. The third point is to be super curious, to ask a lot of questions, because chances are people have this point of view either before we had all the online stuff, all the online madness, Michigas, as you say. But before we had all the online madness, people would come to their point of view because of their parents or because of an experience they had or something like that. Today, people are coming to points of view because of what they've read online. I've done the research. And that's, part of their experience as well. These things that we're exposed to shape us.
Yeah.
But you can ask those conversations. And even if you're like, oh, well, I read this thing. Well, how you can ask questions about the thing that they read. Yeah. How credible is that source? Why is that a source that you believe more than other sources? Does that platform fact check their stuff, or is it just somebody's opinion? Like, how do you know? So I think those are just 3 ideas and they come from me, and I don't know what I know, but like whatever, like there they are, you can use them or not. There's also there's a newsletter that I've been reading a lot lately called Tangle.
Okay.
It's by a journalist named Isaac Saul, and he's got a team of folks who work with him now because his newsletter is it's really grown a lot. And they take one issue a day, and they'll be like, say it's like the Strait of Hormuz, right? Yeah. What's going on with the Iran negotiations? Yeah. They'll just do, here's what the right is saying, here's what the left is saying, and here's what we think. That's it. One issue. And they'll bring in like the most credible sources from both the left and the right, or the most influential sources from the right and left. Yeah. And then they figure out like kind of here's how we see it. Okay. And they do just a single issue, and it's really helpful. Because so many of us are in these media bubbles, these media echo chambers, and we don't know what the other side might be saying and what kind of credibility there is in that.
And there's also so much information that you're bombarded with when you're doom scrolling every night.
Yeah. So much. Yeah.
I really like your way of, like your advice on asking questions. And I know you did a speech about art of asking questions.
I did.
Can you tell a little bit about that for us? Or I know there's 8.
Yeah, and I'm not going to remember. That was 7 years ago, so you might know better than I do which they are. But that came about through a TEDx event that was put on by students at Shaker Heights High School. And best part of the story is that Kid Cudi opened for me, actually.
He's from Shaker.
I know. Yeah. That's why he was speaking there. And there was a last-minute change in order. So his manager was like, Kid's got to get out of here. So can he go? He's going to go before you. And I was like, are you asking me or telling me? And yeah. Anyway, so I got to say that Kid Cudi opened for me, which was super cool. Yeah. And Kid doesn't remember that at all. He doesn't know who he opened for. But it's one of the things that I have in common with some hip hop stars, I think, is that Kid Cudi opened for us.
That's awesome, though.
So yeah, I mean, I think the questions, right? Like I forget what I said. I mean, I know there was like sort of.
I can read it to you. I have it right here.
Go ahead.
And okay, so number 1, be unafraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Number 2 is be curious about an individual's experience.
Yeah, there you go. We talked about that.
Yes. 3, try the obvious question as it can be the most important.
Yeah.
4, words matter to spark feelings in the conversations. We talked about handling situations and how words do matter and how you. 5, strive for empathy to understand experiences.
Here we go.
6, be informed on who you are interviewing. 7, be simple and ask why. That's all it takes is just asking why.
Yeah.
And 8, be gracious for them giving you their time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like me. I think I would have said that.
I love these. I really, really love these. And I listened to that. She sent it to me, and I listened to it, and I really loved it. Like, I love the fact that, like, asking questions is like, you should ask questions, regardless if it's, with your coworker, in a relationship, and like, you should ask questions. And even if they're uncomfortable. And I feel like a lot of people struggle with when you ask them questions, either they get defensive or they, try to argue with you, but they should just sit and understand and see your perspective. And that's like, I feel like a lot of people struggle with that. And sometimes I've struggled with that myself,
Yeah, we
I
all
try
do.
to not understand. I try to react, but now I'm like really working on trying to understand before I react, So I
Yeah.
love that a lot.
Yeah.
Speaking of like asking questions, like have there ever been speakers that you personally struggled with hosting at the City Club or at any other event?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, sure. But our job, I mean, like, struggled with hosting it's hard. I mean, like, if I had a different job, I would do different things, right? And the job is the job.
You chose this job.
And I chose this job, and I
Yeah.
really happen to like this job. In 1916, so 110 years ago, the guy who had my job was Ralph Hayes.
Okay.
And he wrote the creed of the City Club. And that creed is like our value statement, right? And it still works today. It's shocking how well it
Wow.
works. But one of the things that he wrote in that creed, in the sort of like voice of the club,
Yeah.
he said, I have no axe to grind, no logs to roll. My abode shall be the rendezvous of strong but open-minded individuals, and my watchword shall be information, not reformation, right? It's not my job to pick winners and losers. It's not my job to restrict important voices from the platform. We do the platform so the community can make up their own mind, so individuals can make up their own mind. And in fact, individuals all have a responsibility to do that.
Yeah.
And so, that's my job. And I happen to like it. It works for me because I'm a very curious individual by nature. And I like hearing different points of view and understanding how people are articulating issues and framing issues and how they came to that point of view. But I know it's really hard for people with deeply held political beliefs and passions. To hear from the other side. It's very difficult. It can be very challenging. But I think that ultimately it's an act of courage to listen, and it's an act of optimism to listen.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is basically demonstrating that you believe we can get through this troubled time. We are stronger than our disagreements.
Our
Yeah.
differences and
The bonds of our common humanity are stronger than these disagreements that we share. And the bonds of our shared appreciation for democracy are stronger than these disagreements that we're encountering. And it's really hard. And it's really hard because government policy
make it difficult.
makes it
Yeah.
difficult. Government policy can be a life and death thing.
Yeah.
But not having a government is, not having democracy, like, it's not going to help,
Yeah, that's just
right?
as worse. Yeah.
Winston Churchill said, like, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others that have been tried from time to time.
But democracy
Yeah.
won't survive without these conversations.
That's right.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it won't, and, Gavin Newsom, who is, likely running for president, governor of California, like you, has a podcast,
Yeah.
has invited some people from the far right onto his podcast, and he received a lot of blowback for hosting Steve Bannon on the podcast and Charlie Kirk before he was assassinated. And but he was on the Daily podcast, the New York Times podcast, The Daily, talking about this, and he said, "Look, divorce is not an option. We have to figure out how to live together, how to share this country." And I tend to agree with him on that.
Yeah.
There are probably a bunch of things I wouldn't agree with Gavin Newsom on.
But that's the one thing
But for sure, divorce is not an option. Cuyahoga County's ability to survive and thrive depends on Geauga County and Portage County. And it depends on all of us working together and finding the things that we can agree on and working on those. And when we disagree, figuring out how to make compromises.
Yeah.
And how to just continue to share with one another a positive and productive vision of the future. There will always be disagreements. Last year, there was this huge schism in the civic community. The mayor and City Hall said, we will, after the whole Browns thing and the Browns Stadium thing, right? And the City Hall said, we're no longer going to work with the Greater Cleveland Partnership. We will not be in a room with them. We will not, they were very mad that the GCP endorsed the Haslam's vision to move to Brook Park.
Yeah.
Yesterday, at the Greater Cleveland Partnership's annual meeting, the head of the Greater Cleveland Partnership sat on the stage right next to Mayor Justin Bibb, who less than 12 months ago said, I'm not going to be in a room with these guys. He was on the stage with them yesterday because they figured out how to get along. And they had to, because our fates are tied to one another.
Yep.
You know, we can't extricate ourselves from the fact that our fates are shared.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What truth are people avoiding?
What a great question. What do you think?
I was asking you.
I know, but what truth are people avoiding?
That they can be wrong.
Yeah. I think that's
really.
For sure. And
People
also
don't
that
that they're wrong.
Yeah. And I think also that in the end, people do, I think, want to get along.
Yeah.
We can't live with this anger forever. We can't live in this state of outrage forever.
It's not good.
It doesn't really happen. It doesn't.
It's not progressive.
It doesn't help.
It's not progressive, and
it doesn't bring a good outcome.
Yeah, it's not progressive. And I want to understand, like, what is there something that you are doing to promote and advocate for better programs in the northeastern Ohio geographic locations?
What do you mean programs? Like what kind of programs?
Programs that can promote open discussions among students in schools. And
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have an education program that works with high school seniors.
Okay.
And also college students, but the college student part is growing. With high school students, we have two programs. Youth Forum Counselor. We have 5 minutes, Larry. Is that what you're saying? 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Gotta wrap. So my colleague
I want to talk all day.
My colleague Ariana Smith runs our educational engagement, and we have one program that invites students to come to City Club forums. High school students can come for free, and they typically come as a field trip with a teacher.
Yeah.
And probably 10 to 20% of our aggregate audience is high school students who are attending for free. It's a phenomenal program, and they always ask the most amazing questions.
I actually met her recently.
Ariana.
Yeah, I ran into her, and I told her, me and Dan have been texting. He's coming on the show.
Yeah.
I told her that I wanted to sit with her, and I'm like, I'm right next door to you because we're at the Bulkley. She's like, right across the street.
Ariana's fantastic. She also runs the Youth Forum Council, staffs the Youth Forum Council, which is a group of high school students from across the region who, there's like 40 or 50 of them. They come together on a regular basis to plan, produce, and execute City Club forums for other high school students. So they come up with a topic, they invite the guests, they write the scripts.
They moderate.
That's
incredible.
Exactly, all of it. And I really want some of them to get into doing the technical production too, to run the board, to be Larry, to do the to do the soundboard, to run the cameras and all of that. Because
awesome.
I know they can learn that. I just want them to.
The Gen Zs and the younger generation, they are like far more intellectual when it comes to technology, I feel like. I mean, I see it with my own nieces and nephews. So.
Yeah. We also have a free speech essay contest, and we also host the annual high school debate championship for Lincoln Douglas debaters. So those programs are really... And for college students can come to City Club forums for just $5.
On Fridays.
Any day that we're having a forum. It's $5. It's cheaper than your lunch at Subway.
Literally. It
is. And it's better because Spice does our catering.
So Dan, if you can have the whole entire country, sit down and have one honest conversation together, right now, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I would ask them to share the vision that they have for the future. Like, what's the world you want your grandchildren to grow up in? What's the world that you want to see your children create?
Yeah.
And start there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The second conversation would be like, what's the last great book you read?
What was the last great book you read?
Well, right now I'm reading. It's the book I'm reading right now, which is Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. It's like, it's an older book, but it's the book I'm reading. And I'm also I'm going back to some classics too. I'm also reading A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, which I've never read before.
Okay.
But the one book recommendation. I mean, there's so many good books. I think we're gonna have to have you again. You know who you should have on the show?
Tell us.
Courtney Morrow. Courtney runs the Anisfield Wolf Book Awards, which is housed at the Cleveland Foundation, just down the street from where we're recording this. So the Anisfield Wolf Book Awards are one of the nation's oldest book award programs.
Wow.
Book prizes.
Wow.
And they're devoted to works that deal with racism and cross-cultural understanding.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So one of the books that won last year, which was a hilarious book, was by Danzy Senna, called Colored Television.
Okay.
And it was about the experience of this writer in California who's mixed race and the crazy mess she gets herself into. It was so funny and so enjoyable. But Courtney is also a poet, a wonderfully accomplished poet, and she does such a good job. You guys would really enjoy her, I think.
This is why I love having
guests
like you who connect us with other guests. It's like
You
a
bet.
domino effect. So.
You bet. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on today.
We're going to
This was
have to have
so
you on
Thank
again.
you.
I would love it.
I feel
Anytime.
like we can talk for 8 hours.
I could literally sit here and talk for another
this
3
is
hours.
really fun.
If
It's
people
really fun.
wanted to find you, or maybe you don't want people to find you,
Yeah.
but if they wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
cityclub.org.
Okay.
That's the easiest.
That's
We're
the
all
easiest way.
listed there. And I'm
You
also,
never know. There might be somebody that wants to be a speaker.
Sure, for sure. But yeah, cityclub.org. My email address is there. And then, I'm also on LinkedIn. But as I said before, I don't look at the socials quite
Guys,
as much as I
don't
used
spam,
to.
please.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Thank
It's
you
okay.
so much, Dan, for coming on
Thank you
today.
so
Thank you
much.
both.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. This is
Incredible,
really fun.
eye-opening conversation. Thank you for your transparency and honesty. I really hope whoever is listening to this episode takes something with them, and I'm sure they will.
Hope so
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you both. I took
And
something from this.
for
Appreciate you.
Everyone that's listening, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. We're so excited to keep these episodes coming.
Subscribe, people. It really does help us.
And
We're on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all over the place.
So
Thank you
exciting.
for listening.